Just waiting. Okay, my name's Aaron McLaughlin, and this is my dearest friend, and I would also say professional colleague from Sydney, Australia.
Keith Gilbert.
Keith Gilbert.
Just the one, Keith. Just
Keith and I have been having a conversation for the last hour and a half about the challenge that we see in the conversation that is ongoing. And the conversation is predominantly between two parties in our community. And the two parties are what you'd frame the vaxxed and the not vaxxed or unvaxxed. Call these two groups what you want, but that's predominantly, and there's little edges to these groups as well. The challenge that we've had is that we've been talking about for, excuse me, I've just had pumpkin pie, that we've had for a couple of months. The challenge that we've had is that there seems to be a war going on, and the war is a war of belief. And the war is one where there are two sides, the vax and the unvax. Is that kind of what we've been talking about, Keith?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so Keith has been sending me a few messages over the last couple of days around, well, you know, this doesn't work because it's so stressful. When you're in war, you're in a freeze, flight, or fight. So, and a lot of people are in a freeze because no one knows what the hell to do. And then there are some who are just adamant, well, I'm going to do this. And then in this case, it might be, I'm going to get vaxxed, and this is what I have to do. And there is the other group who go into the other flight or fight, and they decide, well, I'm going to not get vaxxed and I'm going to fight for my rights. And the challenge with this is that we get this binary process going on where we have two opposing groups. And they start name calling. They start abusing, and they start calling the others sheeple, or they call the others uncompassionate or unloving or hurtful or hateful, or the unwoke or the woke or the whatever. You know, you could choose a million of these things, name calling processes. Great. And it doesn't work. And so there might be a group of people in the unvaxxed team who go, well, why don't these people understand? Why aren't they maybe researching more? Or why aren't they blah, blah, blah? And we're right. And then you get the people on the other side is like, well, I've done enough research, and I've done this research, and I've listened to this guy and the Prime Minister and the blah, blah, blah. And gosh, you know, look at Israel, they're doing fine, or whatever it might be. And so they take that angle. The challenge is there's this war going on. Mm. And what gets lost is something that is never in the conversation. So what we've been talking about is how do you have a conversation that compassionately allows for a really healthy pathway for everyone, regardless of their decision. What would you say,
so,
Keith? Is that where we've been going?
No, I like where you're going. Essentially, if we use the metaphor that what's going on in our society at the moment is a war, and we have two groups that are adamant that they're in a position of righteousness, then if any member of either group tries to force any member in the other group to open their eyes, then the war is perpetuated. So,
yes, because we're enforcing our belief on them.
We're enforcing, yes, we're imposing, absolutely. And that's essentially a war. And what happens is, because we're imposing upon each other, there's an escalation.
And we see this, it might be, what's that, confirmational bias. So the more someone is told to do what what is against their intuitive belief or their well-researched belief, they'll fire up to confirm their own bias even more, and that'll go strengthen the opposing team. And we see that in politics all the time. Well, it doesn't matter what in New Zealand the National Party says, the Labour Party will go, well, that, and and vice versa. Yeah. You just see this ridiculous. It's even like rugby games. Have you seen the size of these guys now? I mean, like what are they? They're like mountains. Once upon a time they just weren't built this way. I mean, they didn't have, but it's because it's had to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. At some point, you just have to have drugs so they can get bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know, but it's an example, isn't it? It's a
good metaphor of an escalation. You have to better the other team. So you and I have come up with an invitation to a solution to ending the war in such a way that just dissolves the need for it. So if there are opposing ideologies, you're only going to get an escalation. And the solution, and you can embellish this, Aaron, at any time. The solution is what we call an NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, pacing and leading. And essentially, the idea is, and ideally it comes from positive intention. So the idea is you actually pace what someone has done, what their choices have been. If they've chosen to get vaccinated, from a place of integrity and positive intent, I could tell that person, well done. Well done for doing whatever, due diligence you could. Well done for listening to the right experts and making the best choice for you.
Yeah. So
immediately that invites the person to go into a place where they don't have to be defensive. They're being listened to. Their process has been acknowledged for whatever choice they've made. And that goes the same for someone who chooses not to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Rather than calling them idiots and irresponsible and not caring, wonderful. You've also done due diligence and you've come to the best decision for yourself. So please embellish.
Well, I guess, no, it's perfect. And I think, I think about family members who, in my family, who have contacted me telling me that they've gotten vaccinated. And the first thing that goes through my mind and my heart is you have made a decision that is really important to you. And you've listened and you've researched and you've queried, I hope, or you've done whatever you believe is what you need to do to make this decision. I mean, years ago, I was out, we were living rurally, and I had a wet-handled machete, and it slipped out of my hand while I was working on some trees. It hit the ground, bounced, and the point went straight into my leg and made a dent. I almost fainted with the pain. It was just, and I got fascinated, actually. I got fascinated in the whole, which doesn't surprise you. Yeah. Wow, this really hurts, and I think I'm about to faint. Oh, that's fascinating. I haven't done that before. But in the back of my mind, I thought, well, I know I'm going to get to the house, and we'll dress it and whatever. Now, we did it. It was a clean machete. It was a wet day. It was all sorts of things. But I chose, and I checked it over. I made the decision. I slept on it for about 4 or 5 days, and I was traveling to Auckland, and I got a tetanus. And I got a tetanus vaccine because we lived rurally, wasn't really sure. Tetanus is known to be a real problem, especially if you're living rurally. So I thought, well, I'll get my tetanus. Did a lot of research, thought about it, talked to a doctor about it, those sorts of things, and it was a 2-minute job, cost me $20 or $40 or whatever it was in Auckland, and then it was done. Didn't notice anything, haven't ever noticed anything, never got any problems, don't know if I would have. That's the thing. So I, on that level, And my wife said, wow, you got the tetanus? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, congratulations, you know, probably a good idea. Don't really know what would have happened. I mean, I felt fine the whole time. I boosted my immune system as soon as it happened. And because we're living rurally, we were eating off the land, we you know, pretty robust. Probably nothing would have happened anyway. But something got under my skin. I thought, oh, make the decision. So if someone chooses to make a decision to have a medical intervention, and they choose to have that medical intervention for whatever reason, I would imagine that they've chosen to do enough research to trust their intuition, to do what they believe is right. There's nothing wrong with that. And on the higher level, on the values and a future vision level, the kind of stuff we never really talk about publicly. We talk about what we believe and we talk about what we're going to do about it, and then whether that strengthens our belief or whatever. But seldom do we talk about the higher levels. And so, you know, if someone chooses not to get a vaccine, there'll be a higher value proposition that's in the conversation there, and that'll be something around, well, I believe in longevity, I believe in health and well-being, I believe in a future for myself and my family. They just have a different protocol around what that means. Guaranteed, the family or the people that get vaccinated have exactly the same values propositions. Like, well, I believe in the future and I want the future to carry on. And I believe that, you know, that the best way to do that is to trust the medical fraternity and trust the research that's gone into that, and I'm going to do whatever is required to do that. So on that level, there's a huge amount of compassion there. Because these people, everyone's doing what they truly, honestly believe is right. The last thing anyone on any side needs to hear is you're a sheeple, or you're unwoke, or you're an anti-vax, or you're a vax, or you should do it because otherwise, or you shouldn't do it because then you're completely minimizing. You're gaslighting, actually. You're gaslighting the deeply emotional aspect of and what we know about psychoneuroimmunology, around how emotions and our mental state drive our physiology's ability to do what it needs to do, regardless of what our choices are. Yeah? Yeah. So if I'm a non-vax and I keep hearing, oh, you're just a loser and you don't care about your community and you don't care about your children and generations, you don't care about opening the borders, you're just a loser and you're hateful, this is what we're hearing. Yeah. People get abused on the street. Oh, you should wear a mask. Well, I can't because I get anxiety. You just wear it, you loser. If you get that right, what does that do to that person's immune response? It actually makes them a danger, actual, to even those who are vaxxed, not because of COVID, because of their immune system suddenly dropped because they're living in a completely unsafe environment. Vice versa. Yeah. What a bunch of sheeple, what a bunch of losers just following the fascist line or the communist line or the whatever, you know, Pfizer, you know, whatever. Well, these people are suddenly having to live with this cognitive dissonance because they're suddenly being told that blah, 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 and that's why they're fighting so hard back. What does that do to their immune system and its ability to deal with something that has been put into their body that actually very few people know what's going to happen? What happens for them? Yeah. Maybe they'll get sick. Won't be COVID. Could be just they get sick because they're under so much stress. Mm-hmm. What if we just say, well, you've made the best choice? Made the best choice, yeah. You know, and either way, if I'm non-vaccinated or I'm vaccinated, if I'm vaccinated, that's not a problem if you're non-vaccinated, surely, because I'm fine. I've made a decision. It's going to look after my genetic lineage or, you know, whatever. And no, as you know, as someone said in New Zealand recently, someone ex-leader of a party said, you know, well, you'll never get everyone vaxxed. And this is true. You'll never get everyone Christian. You'll never get everyone anything. You know, you just won't, because it's just not how humans work. So there's always going to be a group who just choose not to. Yeah. So what's the problem? And it's the same thing. If the unvaxxed are unvaxxed and they've made that decision, they've got their immune system and they're doing what they believe is right, which is probably going to be healthy for them. So what's their problem with these sheeple people? You know, what's the problem? It's just so disturbing and ugly that you can walk through a mall and not wear a mask because you actually physically can't, and you get abuse. You get challenged, verbally and non-verbally. What would it matter? This person's chosen to do something that could actually be really detrimental to them, but they can't wear a mask. They've got a dispensation, whatever you call it. So what's the problem to the person who has the mask, who, you know, if when masks do what they're supposed to do, well, there's not a problem anyway. Why can't we just acknowledge that people can make decisions for themselves?
Yeah.
And we can compassionately trust that that's okay.
Yeah. So if there is a war going on, and if anyone is interested in actually ending it and wants to contribute to the end of this, it comes from intent. How do we want to engage other individuals? Are we willing to accept, as you say, they're making the best choice for themselves? And if it doesn't suit my choice, I can always displace myself.
Yeah. And listen, here's the thing, and you know, most scientists would probably agree with this. What householder, and that's what we're a householder. We're not a scientist. You know, we're not a, you know, I'm not an immunologist. I'm, you know, spiritually it's called we're the householders. We're not the guru of this knowledge. How are we expected to make the right decision ever? We can't. I mean, even the scientists are arguing.
Yeah.
They're arguing about everything right now. Climate, blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. So, and they're the ones who are the gurus of the knowledge. And we're expected to know how to make the right decision. You know,
we can only make the best decision. We can
only make the best decision that we honestly feel. And if someone comes at me and says, well, you've decided to do this and you're just da-da-da, that's gaslighting me. You know, that's factionizing. That's armbanding. You know, that's both sides of the game. I don't actually believe there is a right in this, and I certainly don't believe there's a wrong. And the sooner we can get out of this political game of right and wrong and drop the hateful lack of compassion that we are demonstrating in this war. Because, you know, we're not,
Well, the invitation is there. The invitation is there to see others as individuals with their own perspectives and doing the best they can with the information they have, whatever that information is. So it's really just an invitation, if you want to contribute to dissolving this war so it ends sooner than later. Are you willing to take the time to see other individuals for who they are, rather than who we expect them to be, what we expect them to think? So it's just an invitation. Personally, I think the war will end very, very quickly if we can come from that place. However we're going to come from that place, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm articulating very well.
No, and I think, you know, maybe it's all we have to say, but I mean, you know, that's the offer. You know, come from maybe a higher place that all human beings, regardless of their religion, their political, whatever, you know, regardless of the decision about this specific thing right now. Everyone is coming from the best possible place that only they know where to come from right now.
Yep.
You know, and it cannot be expected, or sorry, nothing more can be expected. And so why not just allow it?
No. And in appreciating them, as you said, appreciating whatever choice they make, whether to get it or not get it, that will invite them to relax, and it will help their immune system either way.
Yeah.
It'll help their sense of health and well-being, rather than putting people down, squashing their decisions, which is only going to, invite them into adverse immune response. What we can do is relate to each other in ways that boost the immune system.
Well, in ways that we want to be treated. You know, it's kind of biblical maybe, but do unto others. Treat people how you want to be treated. No, like, no one wants to be gaslit. No one wants to be told they're a this or a that. You know, certainly not because of their deeply important and powerful motivations to make a really important decision about their medical life.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because there is a first step, I'm wondering, and this is an invitation to anyone who's listening, when you see another person within this context, within this present war, do you see the other person?
Yeah.
Are you willing to explore what goes on internally when you actually observe another person? Whether they're wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, whether they've told their story of their vaccine or told their story of not having a vaccine. Whatever stories they're presenting, are you willing to see a person in front of you? What goes on for you internally? Are you seeing a person, or are you seeing an adversary, or what are you seeing? What are you experiencing in another human being? I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So that, for me, that's where it starts. You can do as much languaging as you want, and say good on you for doing it, or good on you for not doing it. It comes from intent. Do I see another human being, or do I see something else?
And that's a beautiful place to start. Yeah. Walk through a mall. Yeah. And what do you see? Do you see masks? What do you see? Human beings having made a really important decision about regarding their perception of their well-being and everyone else's. Yeah.
Nice, very nice. So that's our invitation.
That's
it. You can add any more to it.
No, nailed it.
It's an invitation to end the war.
Yeah.
I think Aaron and I have, I guess we both hope that this offers something to the wider community, something to ponder.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what happens.
Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Aaron.